All right, we're back for the post-panel discussion of the 2020 vice presidential debate. As you know, if you've been following us today, we had a pre-discussion prior to this post-discussion, and you can go back and look at that after you watch this one. So we're going to get into the post analysis. My name is Brittae Gray Ross. I am the Director of Educational Activities for the Epsilon Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I'm here with my very distinguished panelists. We got my brother, Terry Wilson. He's Jennings City Councilman, Ward 2. We got Dr. Shawn Baker, Dean of Student Success at Harris-Stowe State University. We got Miranda Jones, Chief Operating Officer at A Better Family Life. And we got our brother, Bobby Eskridge, businessman and real estate broker, owner of Alpha Resources Realty. So glad to have you guys on.
Don't forget me, Brittae. You see, you're doing it again, man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not to mention the marvelous, excellent DeMarco Davidson representing Metropolitan Congregations United. We're always glad. It's always love to have you, brother. I'm so sorry.
It's all good, man. It's all
man.
love.
We tend to leave the noops out every once in a while.
You know? Yeah, give them some divine nine love, Brittae. Give them some love.
You know, my brother is an alpha. You know, my big brother's an alpha. I love him. You know, and I learned from him. I learned from his mistakes. So, you know, shout out to the noops, yo.
Appreciate you. So to the panel, let's jump right into it. What were your all's first reactions to tonight's debate?
Well, it wasn't a train wreck. It wasn't a train wreck.
It definitely wasn't a train wreck.
Yeah, it was a lot more classier, which we expected coming from Kamala, because we knew she would handle herself well, and Pence wasn't a very outspoken person in the first place. So I wasn't expecting a lot of fireworks this time, but I just think it was handled a lot better than it was previously.
The moderator gave a lot more guidance at the beginning this time than the last time too.
Yeah, she was starting to lose control though. Like towards the end, I thought she was kind of biased at first, but she brought some consistency in, and she let him get his off, and then sometimes she let her get hers off. But I think overall she did a way better job than that first debate.
Absolutely, much better job.
You know, I tell you what, I didn't see anything, and I wasn't really surprised by it. It was pretty much a nothing burger, really.
Yeah.
The questions were staged, more or less. They were softball questions that they threw out there. And of course, our biggest interest, you know, being a Black man first and the alpha second, is that what is going to be the need for Black empowerment? And see, Kamala has been put there by the Democrats to make sure that she tamps that down. She's there to appeal to Black voters. She's not there to advocate for Black folks. In fact, in most cases, Kamala, prior to running for this, identified herself as an Indian, and she identified with her mother as an Indian. So there's nothing there. I didn't see anything that was unusual.
Can we?
I'll let you go, Brother Wilson.
No, I was just saying. You know, everybody was saying Kamala is Kamala. Kamala.
I wanted to make a brief.
Senator.
I wanted to make a
Kamala Harris. Put some respect on her name.
a quick mention for those who were on the pre-discussion. Dr. Baker and DeMarco made a prediction And the prediction was very on point. I didn't hear a black agenda
Told you.
being discussed. So
No, but she did make a point when he started talking about stacking the courts. And you talked about stacking the courts, and then you haven't appointed not one black person. So I think that was her attempt to try to put some type of race in and talk about black people in some kind of way, because the questions were so softball, it didn't allow for anything. You know, in the first debate, you know, there was some pointed questions that talked about, you know, do you condone white supremacy? They didn't ask her anything like that. They didn't ask her anything that really led her into being able to talk about a black agenda.
And then also in terms of a black agenda, I think this is a reality check for the black leaders in our country. Basically, we need to come up with some demands that we are asking collectively. And I don't think we have gotten to that point to where we have came to the table collectively, like the LGBT community, like the banking community, and with putting together a black agenda, you have to bring some support behind that, whether it's resources or guaranteed block of voters, because with those demands come accountability. And I think we expect leaders to just do what we think needs to be done without bringing demands. A lot of things that get done because folks have came to the table with the agenda. We get upset with them catering to big business and things like that, but we need to have the same attitude and the same force that big business comes to these leaders with as a black community. And I just wanted to throw that point out there. And people always wonder why. That my observation is that's one of the reasons why.
now, I'll let brother Eskridge respond, and then Dr. Baker.
Well, you know, there is a black agenda out there. It's called reparations in all its forms. It starts at $20 trillion. That $20 trillion grows. And up under that $20 trillion, it allows us then to talk about all the other things up under that umbrella. Now, the new black media, those folks the young people, the Gen Xers and the people younger than that, have actually established a foothold for the past couple of years on YouTube. And I guarantee you, they listen more to YouTube than you listen to MSNBC, all right? Because there are certain groups there, certain black media groups who are actually telling it from a black perspective. And they've been pushing the black agenda for the past couple of years. And that's the reason Kamala lost the first time. The black folks caused her to lose, okay? Because they found that she was insincere and she was not going to do anything to help black folk.
Dr. Baker?
And then another thing we need to think about, all these other movements and how they got their agenda across us, because the money. We are the #1 consumers. So we need to put our money where our mouth is. And that's just important right there. We are the #1 consumers. We need to start putting our money back in what we want at our politicians.
Yeah. And I just want to comment real fast on the concept of even discussing a black agenda. And I think that's one of the challenges is that almost any politician is going to have for one, because when we look at the state populations, right? Mississippi has the most black people in the state per capita. And the majority of other states are 15 and several amount below, right? And when we're looking at the electoral college, we're looking at, therefore we talk about the presidency, right? We talking about like what influence can they have from a federal level to a state level? And this is one of the challenges. Does a black candidate get to talk about black issues? Do they get to say this is black issues, knowing that they might be knocking out people or knocking out a majority of other people who may not even be listening or feel some type of way of ridiculous things like reverse racism? It's not real, right? At least in my opinion, it's not real. So it's going to be a challenge. But what are things like, so when we talk about Medicaid expansion or Affordable Care Act, how many African Americans did that impact, right? And it was quite a bit. How many people are impacted when we raise the minimum wage? And those affect black businesses, black communities directly, but we don't say these are black issues. Now, again, it's the difference between having a black agenda, which specifically empowers and lifts and get black people on the same playing field, on the same level, not even the same field, but the same level, right? There's a difference in that. And I think that's always going to be one of our challenges moving forward, in trying to hold a president who's accountable in trying to win states. They're trying to win states. You know, win votes is one thing, win states is another.
Hey,
Those are the challenges.
so we got in the chat. We got some talk about Kamala's response to the Breonna Taylor question. Kamala. Thank you, Brother Wilson.
Senator, put some respect on her name.
And I'm gonna say, Brittae, to the chat, you know, someone in the chat was gonna say some of the things I was going to say is that, you know, when you talk about an African-American woman who went to an HBCU, who pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha, she about the blackest candidate that we've had. And you know, she is half Asian and she is half African-American, and in no way has she denounced her half of her African-American. You can tell by the choices that she's made in her life, in her college choices and being a part of the Divine Nine. So, you know, we have to lift this sister up and know that, you know, she cannot go in and directly talk about just black issues, because she has to appeal to everyone. We got to win this. We have to win this. And she did talk about her record, which she got cut off in the middle when she started talking about her record, which dealt directly with issues that have to deal with systematic racism and what she was having to deal with when she was the Attorney General.
Well, I tell you what, her record needs to be looked at again, because Kamala actually took black women and put them in prison under truancy laws, and she laughed about it. She took a black woman who was actually on the street with 3 kids and placed her in jail. So she is not this great person that you think she is, and she's not really embracing black. I suspect Kamala is very political down to her little toe, and that's why she went to our university. You know, it was all pre-planned. She joined the AKs, but you know, I tell you what, you know, I'm an alpha, but there are certain alpha brothers who are in politics. I wouldn't follow them down the street. That's the truth. All right, we are descendants of slaves first and foremost. Okay, we're different than all the rest of the diaspora of black folks. Okay, Kamala is going to get in, if she gets in office, her main claim is number one to her Indian side. She's already talked about getting B1 visas to get more immigrants into the country. That's the last thing that Black America needs, okay? And we got to, matter of fact, we probably need to stop calling ourselves African Americans, because Charlize Theron, for instance, is from South Africa, and she would be an African American.
Brother Eskridge, if someone wants to respond to Brother Eskridge very quick, I have a question from some of our audience that I want to direct to Dr. Baker. So before I do that,
I wanted to touch on what Miranda said. We got to win. I mean, we already saw what we up against with Donald Trump and Pence, and so we have to win. And then once we win, we have to start holding them accountable in a way that is more effective than we've done in the past. Like I said, we already know we're gonna get out of Donald Trump. And my thing is, what do we have right now? Who do we have right now that can win? And I believe with them, we at least have a open door to walk through to say, hey, this is what we want. If y'all don't do it in the next 4 years, we're gonna find somebody else. I think we have to start playing politics that way versus and I get what you're saying, brother, and I'm not disagreeing with it, but we have to play with the cards we dealt in this game. The game is set up this way, and we're a long way off from changing the game.
well,
if you tend to go and vote for the lesser two evils, evil is evil. We're supposed to be moral people, okay? And if you go down that road just because we want to get
so basically, you saying don't go vote.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So what are you saying?
No. What I'm saying is this: is that there's another way that you can vote. Sometimes by holding a vote as a block, okay, and then forcing these folks to come to us. Remember, the politician is our servant, but we're acting as if we're the servants of politicians. Okay, we never asked the two Clays who ran North St. Louis for 50 years to do anything. We just wouldn't with them.
I have to disagree with you, because when you say we, I think you might. I don't think you speaking for the whole community, because it's a lot of Black people that I know of, and myself personally, that ask for things and demand things. And you know, when we have to be careful when we say that we, because that we don't really apply to everybody. I just say we have to be careful when we say that we.
Terry, I'm talking about in a collective, okay? We have an opportunity to gather our votes. This is going to be a razor thin race. It's not going to be a blowout. Biden's ahead 14 points right now. Hillary Clinton was ahead about the same number of points when Trump beat her, okay?
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to say this, and this will probably be wrapping up what I have to tell you. You cannot hold politicians accountable. I heard when in the first meeting, there was someone lamenting about the fact, how come we can't hold politicians accountable? When you don't have an economy, you can't hold politicians accountable. The politician responds to the economy under their feet. Our goal has to be it has to be monetary empowerment. And that's the reason Kamala and all the others don't want to address Black people directly, because they want to keep us in a state of where we are on the bottom rung as consumers. They want all these other groups, the Mexicans, the Indians from India, the Caribbeans. These are buffer groups who are trying to really take our place. And if we're not careful, you'll be having the same discussion 30 years from now, except you'll be behind barbed wire.
So with all due respect, what are you suggesting? So you're saying don't vote for the lesser of two evils, and that we should use our voting block as a people. What are you suggesting?
Use a voting block. Okay. Well,
because
hey, look,
there's two candidates here. There's Pence.
Yes.
I mean, there's Trump,
Right.
Pence, and then there's Biden and Harris. And you're saying, I hear that are you saying that the lesser of two evils is Biden and Harris, and that we should not vote for them? What exactly are you saying?
What I'm saying, Miranda, is this: we have to use that block of vote wisely. It doesn't care. We don't care who gives us what we want. We have no permanent friends, just permanent interests. Okay. So if Trump comes to us and say, "Hey, look, I see you got the reparations plan right here. This is what I'm willing to do," and put it in writing to you. If that's the best plan, that's what we put our vote at, because they both want to win. And the one thing we know, Miranda, is this: at the end of the day, there's going to be a white supremacist in the White House. There's no difference between the two.
But I have to jump in as well. The Republicans not gonna come to us and ask us what we want, and they're not gonna listen to what we're demanding.
Well, here's the situation: you're 40% of the Black Democratic camp, right? And they're trying to ignore you. They play a game where they try to divide Black women from Black men. All right, they stroke Black women and they ignore Black men. But see, they couldn't get away with it now. They found that they're not going to be able to win without Black men. Now they're trying to stroke Black men. So we have them on the ropes. The stars are aligned for the first time. We don't want to blow this.
Yeah, just as a point of clarity, I think what Brother Eskridge is saying when it comes to the need of Black people and a Black agenda, and his solution for that is to vote for not necessarily outright endorse any candidate until they provide an agenda as such as what it seems what Brother Eskridge is getting to is reparations, or something of the sort, which we haven't heard it spoken very directly, exactly what is going to be given to Black America. And it actually leads me into the question that I wanted to ask Dr. Baker that we got from the audience on Facebook. Brother Brandon, see him, I don't know how to pronounce the last part, but he said, would it be feasible reparation for college loan forgiveness for Black Americans?
I want to answer that too when you get done.
It addresses a segment of the African American population. So, I like the idea and everything, but it's not going to touch everybody across the board. So, so that's why I say it's a start, like they said today when they're debating. Ms. Harris stated that if Biden and her get elected, they will eliminate $10,000 worth of loans. But I mean, if you know the rising cost of education in the last 5-10 years, the average cost of, average loan is, students who graduate after 4 years, 4 to 6 years is over $40,000. So $10,000, you just throwing chump change at us.
Right.
Right. So, the question you asked, is that part of reparations? Like, should it be part of reparations? It should be. And again, it should be part of it. That's, to me, I think that is, again, the beginning question, right? The standard of when we are discussing reparations. We are talking about, again, having the economy, having the finances, and to be able to protect what we actually build and grow and develop. Because let's not pretend like Black people have not tried to do their own thing, including here in St. Louis. We can talk about whether it's Berkeley or even Robertson or other Black cities that have been disappeared or chopped up because of a highway. Are Black people not allowed to go some places, or even Black people not be able to have a franchise in St. Louis County until the 1980s, 1990s, since we've been born. So the fact that Black people haven't even been able to not just accumulate wealth, but protect their own wealth, that's part of the issue, which is one of the cases for reparations. And that was originally brought up by Marianne Williamson, who ended up getting denounced and dismissed because, she's not really a Democrat anyway, right? But she was the one who was getting input and getting information from from ADOS, the African Descendants of Slaves organization, right? She was the one that was going in and brought in the conversation of reparations to the debates early on, but then she got dismissed because she's not a real Democrat. So I agree, there is an issue with the two-party system as well, right? So we can discuss that.
I want to touch on something. I don't think that should be part of reparations, because they're going to benefit from that too. Believe me, it's going to be a bailout for these loan systems and everything. I think if we're going to give us the money, let us decide where we're going to put our money in. And we can put that wealth back in our communities. But when you start putting that on student loans and everything, they're going to benefit. That system is benefiting them.
Yeah. And
I don't part of it, so not the only thing.
I need to swing away from reparations and back to the what's happening right now. We are a couple weeks away from an election. Reparations is not really going to be on the table right now in the next 29 days. Is not what's going to decide this election. What is it, 27 days, 28 days now? So right now we need to talk about when I have to go back to us talking about a white supremacist will be in the White House. Biden and Trump are two totally different people. You have one person who will not denounce white supremacy, and the other who has. But you said that there's going to be a white supremacist in the White House. Obama was not a white supremacist who was in the White House. So I'm not going to allow us to go forward saying that we're going to put a white supremacist in the White House. We're not. We have an option here to put somebody here who is denouncing that system.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes,
have you read Joe Biden's legislation at all? Do you realize that Joe Biden was?
He's not perfect. He's not perfect, but he's not a white supremacist.
Joe Biden passed the 1994 crime bill that put tens of thousands of Black people in jail. This is Joe Biden. He's one of the architects of the Patriot Act, where he can, come in your house anytime he wants to. Joe Biden sat under the foot of Strom Thurmond, the biggest racist of the 20th century.
But Brother Eskridge, Joe Biden also was following and leading.
Let Brother Eskridge finish, and then I'll let Miranda respond.
Yeah. Joe Biden was the leading architect against desegregating schools. He didn't want his kids to go to school with Black folks. He is a biggest racist as Donald Trump. There's no difference between Trump and Biden. So this effort to try to get Trump out and put another white supremacist is going to be futile. I'm telling you. So our only chance here, just one second.
Go ahead, Terry.
Our only chance here is this. We have the stars of the line. Typically, for you to have an impact politically, you have to have the economy, the money to make this politician do what you want him to do. In this case, though, the stars are aligned where, because the race is going to be so close, in both the left white supremacists and the white supremacists want to occupy the White House, one of them is going to break. And they're going to come to the Black America, the descendants of slaves, and ask us for a specific justice claim. We have an agenda for foundational Black America. You can go online. You can go to ODS and get it. It's there.
All right, so brother Eskridge, we're gonna let Terry go in and then
Go ahead.
So I want to speak to the legislation. I don't memorize the legislation, but I do know how legislation is crafted. And Joe Biden may have led that piece of legislation, but everything that's in that legislation in Congress, and like going back to what I said, part of the game in Congress, everybody is attaching certain things to their legislation, even though it might say X, Y, and Z. Joe Biden may have added some things, and another person may have added something. And I don't like the way it goes. But I think it's unfair to call. I think it's unfair to call him a. Yeah,
He's
man.
He's a racist, bro.
I'm not agreeing with you.
DeMarco?
Yeah.
So I'll make this quick, man. Because again, I actually want to get back to like the debate, but one of the challenges is that like anybody's been in politics as long as Biden and Harris have both been in are going to have some baggage, no matter what. And because times have changed, thank God that the times actually have changed to where we can the fact that we are even saying thinking about reparations or police reform. The fact that they said we're going to make sure that we're going to decriminalize marijuana and get expungements, get rid of private jails, private prisons. So attempting to undo what the crime bill created, the funding that was created for that. And let's stop acting like Black people were not involved. Now, again, because we were in the midst of the crisis of crack epidemic, and we did not get it treated like a health epidemic like the opioid crisis is right now. Right. We criminalized addiction instead of treating it like a health issue. This is why the crime bill came about, because a bunch of Black people, Black pastors, and Black grandmothers and grandfathers were like, listen, my granddaughters are grandchildren are unfortunately robbing us because of crack. And we know we didn't bring crack into the country anyway. So we can try to put all this at the foot of Biden, and let's not and then forget, like, Trump has not continued to be absolutely the extreme of every single issue. And if nothing else, calling for the death penalty of the Central Park 5 is enough for me, because that means he's calling for death on all Black boys and girls. Yeah. So I cannot say Joe Biden, who was being a politician, is the same as Trump, who was not a politician, putting out an article calling for the death penalty of teenagers, of Black boys and girls. I cannot call them.
All right, I got another. Thank you
for that, Marco. I was throwing an alley-oop to you, man. I appreciate you.
I got another question from the audience from the previous conversations from David Robinson. Understand the desire for reparations, but what if we do not get it? What if Congress refuses to give any reparations? What are other means we can get out of the financial chains we are in as people in this country?
I tell you what, we're definitely not going to get it if we don't try. You see, and we have right now probably the best time in history. We have a chance to actually make this thing come true. All right, we just have to be wise in using our vote. You don't want to vote for any candidate who doesn't represent your interests, man. You know, you can try to make excuses for Joe Biden or Trump or whomever it is that you're talking about. They're both the same people. One smiles at you, he's going to stab you in the back. The other smiles, he's going to stab you in the heart. You know, if I'm going to get stabbed, I prefer to see who's stabbing me.
But I think as a community, we have to, one, move away from depending on government solely for all of our issues and all of our problems.
But Terry, before you say that though, I know I've heard this argument before. Boeing gets subsidies from the federal government. They're one of the biggest welfare queens in the country. All right. Okay. All white people get subsidies in the form of white privilege. Okay.
But I'm not
talking about moving away from government. You need government.
But I'm not debating that part. What I'm saying is, we need to, because right now, everybody in their mind is solely dependent on politics. Politics is one part of solving issues, and everything we got going on in the community. But also, it's all layered. We all put our focus directly on the federal government when the focus needs to start here locally, then on a state level, then on the federal level. Because when you talk about dollars and subsidies and money being trickled down, it trickles down from the top down. But if things aren't in order for our communities to even receive the money, then we still in bad shape. So we have to get things in order locally, on the state level, and on the federal level to be prepared to receive that money. Right now, we got $173 million that we begging for that came from the federal government to get to St. Louis County. And we're begging for that money because we don't have the political capital or infrastructure locally to be able to receive that money. Just imagine if we were in position with the county, on the county government and local municipalities, if we were in position, we would be able to use that $170-something million to build some sustainable change in our community. And that's just one example of money trickling down. And so let's not get bogged down on just what's happening in DC. We need to get our stuff in order right here on the ground in St. Louis and in Jeff City.
Well, nobody disagreeing with that. But
Yeah,
we were
and
talking about the national. Yeah, we were talking about the national election.
I know we're talking about the national election, but I know we were talking about overall economic empowerment for our community, and it starts locally. Like you can have whoever you want up the top.
We've got to stop talking, reparations. I hope we get reparations, but we haven't gotten it thus far. We're still pushing forward. So we got to talk about unifying our community development, stopping some of this gentrification and taking back our neighborhoods and taking back our power. There's a lot of things that we are going to have to do. We cannot rely on the government to give us reparations. We haven't gotten it thus far. Right. Who knows if we ever will. So at the end of the day, we have to unify our community. We have to look at what we can do to build our own economic forces to keep the Black dollar in the Black community. Stop giving our dollar away, which we give away so freely to other communities. We have to start turning inside and looking at what we can do for ourselves.
I'm disagreeing with you on that, but the pot of money that you have, as Terry was talking about, comes from the top. You see, a lot of your municipalities are going broke right now. Where are they going to get the money from? It comes from the federal government.
Exactly. That was the point I was making. I'm saying, since we're not in position locally to receive that money, we're begging for it from the county executive. The federal government already wrote the check in March.
Okay.
And the money ain't touched no municipality yet.
And why is that, Terry? Why is that, Terry?
Because we're not in position locally to receive the money.
What type of position do we need to be? Can you be more?
So we don't. So we had an opportunity to select a county executive that has the best interest of our community at heart. Right now, we don't have that, and I ain't even talking about right now. I'm talking about before we got the Sam Page and Steve Stinger. We don't have the people in place that know what these communities need to get that money. They have the money from the federal government. So receiving the money from the top is already here. We just don't have the infrastructure on a local level to receive the money.
All right, Dr. Baker, if you want to jump in real quick, I'll let you do that. Then I'll give another question from our audience.
Now, I agree with what he's saying, and Mr. Eskridge said, we're talking about the debate we're talking about right now. It's about the issue about the national level. But I do think we need to have a discussion. We need to have more discussions, but we need to be talking about what's going on in our backyard. That is very, very important. And we have a big election coming up with our mayor and some different things that we need to be talking about. But I'm not gonna say that to another segment that Alpha's gonna put together for this.
And our governor as well, because our HBCUs in Missouri are underfunded. Yes. And that goes back to federal dollars that are given to the state, and the state allocates those funds out. We don't have the infrastructure here locally at home, once again, to receive those federal dollars. So no matter who we put in the White House, we're not in position to even receive whatever comes our way.
All right, so that's good right there. I got a question from the audience. It was actually on our pre-discussion, and he was responding to Leon, brother Nick Garvin. He said that, not that I disagree with Leon, but should we look deeper into the issue and ask if we have the right people running for office who court the Black vote every election cycle? How do we get more Blacks into elected office? What should we look for in the right candidates if this is the reform we desire?
I missed the earlier part, but in terms of getting more Blacks involved, I don't really think that's an issue. I think getting the right Blacks involved is the issue.
Well, just real quick, brother Wilson, Leon spoke a lot about the need for reparations. So that's what he was talking about.
Okay.
Well, first off, I think you gotta get the people as a fraternity or a sorority. Our duty is really not to push any particular political party. Our duty really is to educate the Black voter, all right, about the issues of Black empowerment, economic empowerment, not to push Republican or Democrat, all right? Because once we educate them about what our needs are and how we achieve them, they'll make the right decision. You see, but we can't be out here saying, okay, we're gonna pick up voter registration stuff for Democrats and passing it out, especially if you're a 501c3, because the IRS can come and take that away from you, number one. So that's how you do this, man. It's hard to get a guy who wants to be for Black people and have him work for us because he gets monetized by white folks, the powers. You see, so it goes back again, it comes back full circle to us not having an economy. Now, some of us are always going to be doing well financially, but we have to remember that when one person in our community is poor, we're really all poor because it drags us down from a power perspective.
But I mean, historically, we haven't always been like this. You got to realize before they started destroying the Black family in the homes and taking out the fathers in the homes, we used to put our money in those political structures and things. But now that there's so many different things that play a role that we don't really have that political structure, that money backing anymore.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to dance around this, but when we were forced to be together, that was the time you speaking of, and I think the leaders then, I mean, Dr. Martin Luther King,
we funded him.
even spoke to the issue of leading us into a burning building. I think he said, I might be misquoting him, but
no, you quoted him right. That was just before he died. He realized that he'd fought for some things and put Black folks in a bad position.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make a quick mention. I'm getting a lot of talks about Brother Eskridge and his commentary. But a lot of the comments have been, as far as reparations are concerned, and maybe some of the audience can clear it up. Police brutality is concerned, and some of the things that we talk about as far as the Black agenda, it's not enough in these next few days leading up to the election to be asking for. Is that valid?
So here's my take on it. I think the issue of police brutality goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of the levels of government. Until the laws change on a state level, it's going to always be police brutality, whether we like it or not. And that's the ugly truth, because the state laws protect certain things that law enforcement do to us. And that's the issue that I think we dance around and don't talk about enough. And I don't think a lot of people realize, case in point, St. Louis. St. Louis has always been known as a violent city these last few years. But one thing that people haven't taken a look at is a few years ago, the laws on the gun laws have been tweaked a little bit in terms of conceal and carry and being an open carry state and stand your ground laws. All of those things changed under a Republican-led legislator, governor, and Senate. And when those things shifted, our violent crime went up tremendously, because now a police officer can pull you over, and if you have a weapon and you're not doing anything unlawful with it, you know, you could just carry a gun without any type of registration or licensing or anything. And back then they were able to enforce that. But even further, there's other laws on the books that allow officers to they know that they're going to get away with certain things. And until we change the actual laws on the books, because laws are carried out because they're on the books. And so those laws need to change. Like all these prosecutors, I take my hat off to the ones that say they want to fight for criminal justice reform, but you can't fight for true criminal justice reform until you change the laws that are on the books, the state laws that are on the books. We could pass all the laws we want locally, ordinances or whatever, but it won't supersede what's on the books on the state and federal level.
So, you know, I agree with what Terry's saying. You know, we have to, you know, make sure that we're looking at the state and the local level. You know, this is one of the biggest elections of our lifetime. We have to know this, our national election. But you're right, we can't wait until every 4 years to get engaged. And right now, when you're talking about, we're talking about reparations now, right before the election, we need to start talking about the reparations right after the election and start pushing them for the 4 years that they are in office, and stop waiting until right before the election. So, you know, getting engaged in the local politics, getting engaged in the state, you know, all these midterm elections that nobody, you know, we have 30% turnout. People are not interested until it comes to this. And at this point, you know, we're down to two candidates. We're down to two candidates. And all of the other, whatever we're talking about right now, it comes down to what are we doing in the next 3 weeks? What are we doing? And we have to make a decision.
Dr. Baker?
Yeah, I want to also talk about, I think I like what you all talk about, but if y'all ever caught, when we were watching this debate, they talked about the economy. The thing they were talking about the economy was the tax for taxing people to make over $400,000, but they never talked about the middle-class family or the small business. That's what affects us. And that's one thing they just keep overlooking. And I was amazed that no one addressed it, the middle-class family or the small business.
You know, on a local level, we had Kim Gardner. I think she was in the first one, right? First panel. Kim Gardner is a classic example why you're never going to be able to reform the white judicial system or the white police system, okay? Now, she's had to have bodyguards. You know, she's actually had threats from the St. Louis Police Department to her life, all right? There are two unions. There's the regular policeman union, and then there's the ethical society that was created by Black policemen. Why is that? Because this is a racial issue, you know? You're not going to be able to reform a police department where the FBI says that 78% of the police departments across the country have been infiltrated by skinheads, neo-Nazis, and all the others. You can't reform the judicial system. You know, this stuff has to be broken, and it has to, we're gonna have to do something major. And that's the reason you can't put reparations in the back burner. Reparations is the answer. We got to push for that. We got to make the demand. You know, I'm 66 years old. You know, you guys are young, but I can guarantee you that 30 years from now, you'll be talking about the same situation, and our situation would have actually deteriorated.
So moving forward, you know, who's ever president, whether it be Trump or Joe Biden, as Black people, we're all Black on this call. What should we be demanding of, you know, our president, our presidential administration?
Well, the first thing you do is this: you have to make the demand before it becomes president. You have no leverage with anybody who wants to get in office.
Yeah, the deal is done before they get elected. But I will say this, Brittae, the demands that we do come up with collectively, not only do they need to be presented and demanded to the the president, we need to be intentional about our Senate and our Congress, because that's where the power lies. Our president can make executive orders and he has certain powers, but in terms of the things that we really need to get done, think about the stimulus package that they're trying to get done. You know, all of that runs through the Senate and Congress. And so I think, like I think Miranda may have mentioned it earlier, we have to make sure that we put all our energy and our focus not in just one election every 4 years, but the one that come around every 2 years and the one that come around every 4 years as well. But in terms of what we need to be asking for, I mean, we talk about it every year. We need education reform. We need funding for HBCUs. We need loan forgiveness, because I believe with student loan forgiveness, that will definitely be a boost to our economy. We definitely need to talk about real job creation in our communities, and we need to talk about investment in our communities.
And Terry, one of the things we need to talk about is dismantling the electoral college.
Absolutely.
You know, and I don't know why, you know, we saw this, we have seen this in the last few elections go terribly wrong.
Yes.
And at some point we have to demand that if we can get the Senate and we can get the House and we can get people in place to get rid of that system, which is going to continue to hold us down if we don't do something about that. That has to go.
Absolutely.
Right. And I also think that one of the things that we have to, I would say even demand amongst ourselves, is to make sure that we actually are holding elected officials accountable, but not just Black elected officials. I think my opinion is that I'm a constituent of anybody who passes any policy that impacts my life. Henceforth, Ann Wagner, who's the congressional congresswoman for the 2nd District of Missouri, because she's somebody who literally says, I have the most guns. I'm the congressperson who has the most guns. She's the one who advocates and pushes for laws like the you no longer need no CCW, all these other loose gun laws, uncommon sense gun laws. She pushes those, and that impacts our lives, our families. My dad was murdered, right, by a gun, by a 19-year-old, right? So unfortunately, she makes laws and policies. We need to continue to put pressure on her. We can actually not just put pressure on her, but encourage whoever is running against her to say, you know, to let them know that, hey, we will come out and support you, but we're going to hold you accountable. And I appreciate what the wisdom of Brother Eskridge is actually sharing, is that we got to hold people accountable and make sure they hear us. I get tired of hearing people say, oh, that's not my state senator out in Southeast Missouri. I can't say nothing to them. Yes, you can, because they impact your daily life. They make decisions on the education budget for the Hazelwood, Riverview, Jennings, Rittner school districts, right? So if we're not making those adjustments here, I think that's one thing that Terry brings up very well, is that this is what we're talking about when we don't have the things in place, right? We got to make sure that we are able to hold elected officials accountable. And we can look at Missouri again. In 2018, we raised the minimum wage and got democracy reform. Legislators didn't like that. So now we just got Medicaid expansion. That wasn't done by the legislators. It was done by the people of Missouri coming together with a shared self-interest. And now the legislators of Missouri are trying to get rid of that. So now we're asking people to vote no on Amendment 3. You can do that as a 501c3. We can say, please vote no on an amendment, right? On Amendment 3, we ask people to vote no. At least I'm asking people to vote no. So we see these things. We got to be able to say we can hold people accountable, and also say, like, you're not just going to continue making budgets. You're not going to keep making policies that impact my Black life without my voice as well. My Black voice gets to have input. And I think that's what we got to continue doing.
Marco, you make a real good point in terms of conceding talking to people just because they're not in your district. As community organizers and leaders, we need to make sure every session we know who's the chair of each committee, because that's where it starts. That's where the advocacy starts. They're going to follow the lead of the chairman of that committee. And we have to do a better job of, like you say, going to those folks who basically have the power to put money in a budget, take money out of budget, create a law, don't create a law, whatever. So we need to make sure every session we are in tune with who is the chairman of these committees, and we need to hold them accountable as well. Because
our Senator Blunt right here in Missouri was the chair of the Appropriations Committee for years.
Oh yeah.
So I was
he
talking
got a
to
lot
Senator
of clout.
Blunt.
And he got a lot of clout with the Trump
with
administration.
Republicans. So you know, I would be remiss if I didn't go talk to Senator Blunt. He is elected as a Missouri senator. I'm going to go talk to him, and so yeah, and hold him accountable as well for what we want and demand what we want from him. So you know, we're absolutely right. We have to reach across both sides. If you're elected and once you're elected to represent our interests, and I'm going to let you know what it is, rather you're Republican or Democrat.
Right.
Yeah, you guys, like I got like so many questions, but unfortunately we don't have the time. But I like to thank each and every one of you for joining on this panel discussion, this much needed discussion. All of you are exemplary of Black excellence. I am thankful to be in you all's presence. I know that each and every one of you are pushing, you know, in your personal lives and professional lives to enhance the life of Black bodies, and I want to thank you for that. To some of the folks who are in the comments, I saw them, but I don't see the need to repeat them.
You don't need to address that, you know.
Yeah. But again, thank you guys, and thank you to the audience who joined in participation. I'm sorry I couldn't get to every question. Hopefully you got a lot out of this conversation, and it will be up on Facebook Live, and the brothers are working to get it up on YouTube. So the pre-discussion and the post-discussion, the brothers are working to get those videos up on YouTube, so you can go back and take a look at the commentary that was made today. Thanks again, and we should do this again. We're definitely going to do this again. So thank you guys.
All right.
All right.
All right, good seeing everybody.
Okay.
All right, take it easy.
All right.
Great job moderating, Brittae. Thank you for the offer again.
Most definitely.
Thank you, Miranda. Let's connect. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Appreciate it.
All right, take it easy, y'all. Good job today.
Thank you.